Hello, everyone. Let's go ahead and have a look at what is robotic process automation with Automation Anywhere, A 2019. Um, so, first question what hits us is what is RPA? Well, RPA, as we all know, stands for Robotic Process Automation. However, there are multiple definitions, but we will go with Automation Anywhere's mentioning as to we have broken down the entire definition of RPA into four parts. Um, as per Automation Anywhere, the robotic process automation is a software technology that's easy for everyone or anyone to use to automate digital tasks. Um, we will kind of break it down into further parts. When we are talking about RPA, there are certain dependencies which you have to be always be aware of, that you can only RPA digital tasks. So you have to first digitize your processes and then only you can RPA them. And one of the criteria whenever you are choosing a tool, you have to be very careful about how easy it is for everyone else to use it, because the purpose of the tool is to reach out to the mass employees of people rather than being limited to a function. Then, with RPA software, users create software robots, or in short, what we call them bots, that can learn, mimic, and then execute rule based business processes. So there are again a lot of hidden meanings within this part, where they say that in order to create um, the software robots, just to kind of clarify this, these are not physical robots. These are all software robots, and these are not visible. They are apparent, but they are not visible. They are nothing but programs that can learn, mimic, and then execute rule based processes. So, the first criteria is how intelligent is my bot, which is probably not only doing what it is being asked to do, but at the same time, it is kind of learning on its own with its own experience. The more data it encounters, it's learning more. How good it can basically imitate the human actions in any form, any shape, size, form, whatever way it comes, and then execute a rule based business processes. Now, that's what the catch here is with RPA, that the processes have to be a rule based process. We will talk about this in detail a little later. Also, RPA automation enables users to create bots by observing human digital action. So there's the catch here, that anything what we are talking about in RPA is nothing but replication of human actions. So if I'm expecting it to rain, no, it would not, because I can only talk about anything which is replicating my human actions onto my system. Okay, and show your bots what to do. Then let them do on it, the work on their own. Also, robotic process automation software bots can interact with any application. This is one of the criteria which you have to evaluate when you're looking at a tool, that it should be able to interact with all the applications which you're currently using within an organization. Just like the same way as anybody as an employee would be doing. Um, except obviously we understand the difference, that except my bots will be working non-stop 24/7 and faster, and at the same time 100% reliable and accurate. So these are the criterias which we have. If we have to summarize the four factors for digital workforce, it should be easy for everyone to use. It should be able to wisely and error-free, mimic human actions. Should be able to interface with all my applications, and it should be robust enough in terms of when we are looking at the deployment. It should be robust enough to carry fluent work around the clock. It should not crash, or it should not show any bugs within the system. Apart from that, and as the experience will and with experience, as you will find, the bots are able to replicate human actions. They would be like humans itself. It will be like an employee. and you would like to recruit new bots across the enterprise, just like how you would recruit a new employee for expansion, thus bringing in scalability also in question. So when you're looking at a tool, you got to be careful about what is the scalability of my tool. If I want to expand at one point in time, would I need to buy another tool, or this tool itself I can scale it up? So those factors have to be kept in mind. Now as we were talking about a little bit about the processes, let's understand what is it, because this is it's cardinal for you to understand what is process when you're talking about RPA. So a process, a rule-based process, which we also saw, is nothing but a flow chart, as we have always seen, a series of actions which we do to achieve our goals. Steps which we take in order from the beginning till the end to complete my entire process. Whether we are looking at the image right in front of our screen where we started off, there is some process, there is a decision box, and this is the element what we use within a process as a logic, which is deciding if not then what, and then if it is if the logic is clear, then we move to the next process and close the process. If it's not, it goes back in loop to fetch the data or whatever the requirement is to complete the loop. Now, whether we are looking at this, we are day in, day out involved with a lot of processes. We go to our offices. There's a process of we getting ready. There's a process of we eating. Similarly, in the offices, we have processes like bank reconciliation. We have processes, invoice, updates. We take the data from an email or an Excel file. I'll take that data. I will go ahead and paste that onto, a Word file or on an Excel file, do some calculations with it. These are all my processes. So rule-based process. Now, the only thing when we are reinforcing rule-based is when my logic within the process, which is this decision box, has only yes and no, it makes it rule-based. The moment there is another maybe, it does not fall in the category of rule-based. Okay, and any process which you look at would always have an input and output. So if I am doing some work in terms of updating the data from the email and pasting it onto a CSV file, my email, I take the data from email, which becomes my input, and then I go ahead and put that onto the CSV file, which is the output, and save it. And if I have to send it back to somebody, then it becomes an output. So any process would always have an input and an output. And currently, in our given situation, we are using human resources to do our processes. But when we are talking about robots, they will just replace the human hands with our robots. I beg your pardon. I should not call it robots. Let's call it bots here on. With our bots, and the RPA process begins. Now, idea is that we are identifying processes, however, which are repetitive in nature. Any process which is repetitive in nature, which are rule-based, and which have multiple other issues with, like, you want to go in and get them the quality, there were defects coming, now you want to reduce the defects. RPA is a good solution. It gives you 100% its accuracy. You are struggling with time in terms of finishing off the SLA, wherein I'm supposed, for example, if I were to do invoicing for 1,000 invoices and I'm using 50 resources, tomorrow I get a new contract and I have to increase my number. Instead of hiring that, I can always use my bots to do it faster. So there are many criterias which we would kind of look at in terms of when we are looking at RPA. And then once we have understood, let's understand now, let's break it further. What does the RPA stand for? For that, let's take the help of the calculator. Usually in a calculator, when an user inputs 2 by 2, and I go ahead and key in 2, and then I press the key as multiply and then 2, the calculator automatically calculates and prints 4. Here, the automation is about the 2 into 2, which is happening at the background. Yet a user is required, to input that data and take that data or use it somewhere else. So far the calculator only fulfills the work of automation. And when in RPA the user is eliminated, the person who's putting that value in or using that value is completely eliminated. Hence, it works like a robot. It's mimicking human action. Robot is the definition of robot would be the true robot is the one which mimics human actions. So, and at the same time, since it involves the process of that makes it robotic process automation, right? That's what the definition for RPA is. Now, benefits of RPA, what has been observed in couple of years, ever since it has taken speed around. Um, Better productivity is realized, better accuracy, better ROIs and savings, improved compliance and scalability. Now let's have a quick look at what we were just talking about. How has it kind of, how can we decipher that from the markets and the trends? Now the RPA industry will grow from 250 million to in 2016. So that's where the journey has begun. Actual big journey has begun from. In terms of the competitive RPA is concerned. Otherwise, RPA has been in the organizations ever since, let's say, 2004 or 5 onwards, right? This is according to Forrester, and they're saying it is going to go to 2.9 billion in 2021 by next year, or rather, we should call it this year. So, robotic process automation software revenue grew from 63% in 2018 to 846 million, with 9 of the top 10 vendors changing market share position in 2018. So now, with the situation in hand, also RPA is a good solution because we still need the work to happen where we are not using the human resources. So along with that, the global robotic process automation market size is already valued at 1.440 billion in 2019 and expected to reach 11 billion by 2027, expanding at a CAGR of 34% from 2020 to 2027, as mentioned by Grandview Research. By 2025, the market of the collaborative robotics is expected to reach 12 billion as per markets and markets. Potential economic impact of knowledge work automation is expected to be 5 to 7 trillion by 2025 as per Automation Anywhere. Now, in order to kind of, this is what we are talking about in times to come. RPA is going to pick up a lot of speed. It's a very good time for anybody to pick up this skill of being able to understand the scope of RPA, how the deployment works, how to build the bots, and so on and so forth. Because eventual goal would be to convert, or when we are looking at the the roadmap for the complete RPA journey, we will understand how digitization or digital workforce is going to play a role in times to come. In numbers, 53% of the enterprises have already adopted RPA. 27% of productivity rise has already been observed. 38% increase in compliance has already been observed. ROI, return on investment, the reason why we all do business. In RPA investment is 4 times as against 2 times in non-RPA investments. In 5 years, it is mentioned in 5 years' time, RPA to achieve near universal adoption if the trend continues. So this is a very good time for everyone to learn this tool and be able to execute when it is universally adopted in all the organizations. So now let's have a look at how does the RPA journey look like. When we are, in order to kind of show this again, it's a roadmap as we call it. Like the first step we take in terms of when we are thinking about RPA, we need to understand what is our vision for digital transformation. How am I foreseeing the digital transformation? If I planned right, I would get it right. So this is the time when we're looking at creating a vision that yes, in times to come, what is going to be the new way of working? Am I going to be sitting and doing the repetitive work which, our forefathers have been doing for years, or I'm going to be changing the game here, or I'm going to change the trend, wherein I would be involved in only cognitive related work. We are humans, and then thereafter one has to see what is the readiness of it. Who will be the RPA leaders? Who will be managing the RPA COE? What will we automate first when we are looking at a use case? What is it that we should look at, or automating first? Who is going to be our vendors? What kind of tool shall we be looking at? What kind of architecture do we already have? Which tool suits our requirement? All that is evaluated at this point in time. And once we have evaluated all these points, that's when we go for a proof of concept, wherein we are checking that all that we have gotten, and how is it implementing? What's the implementation like? What are the assumptions, in our unique business context? Once all that has gone through, then we would jump into the real world business operations, wherein we will be testing our RPA bots. We will be executing, we will be testing, and then once we have created certain level of confidence, we can go ahead and build a center of excellence, which is basically globally managing or controlling or oversight. It's an oversight for the global RPA operations. Thereafter, we slowly, once we see positive results coming in with a couple of processes which we have RPA'd, we have started realizing the benefits, then we will be gaining some momentum with the other processes and grow and spread the RPA across organization. Once my entire organization is engaged with the similar actions, that's when we say our organization is converted to, we have been successful in terms of digital transformation. That's our final goal when we are looking at the roadmap from RPA standpoint. Now the question is that the end? The answer is no, because here on we will jump into the cognitive automations. So quickly, let's have a demo as to how RPA looks like. I'm sure so far we have all seen RPA as a concept. There's no universal picture of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a real bot doing some work in terms of invoices, which has been pulled out from the email, and the process is executed. So let's go ahead and have a look at that. So now let's have a look at a use case where a vendor sends the invoice and expects the details of the invoices to be sent back, especially in an SLA-driven matrix, which effectively means that there is a particular format in which it needs to be sent. So if I were a human being, I were to go ahead and open my email, extract those invoices, and put them in the folder. Open those invoices, open my Excel template. I will relatively go ahead and pull the data from the invoice, attach the filled Excel form, and send it back through an email. Now, if we were looking at this situation, let's see, this is the real-time situation where I've received those two invoices, and I have the invoice structure already defined and the Excel template defined, where the Excel template is basically taking the inputs of the invoices, which are invoice number, address, and amount. So now let's go ahead and have a look at real-time situation, how a bot would run for this particular situation, wherein there is no human to input those information. So let's have a look at this. So you can see the bot has started. It identified the email from some person. And I've built the bot where it's feeding the data into the Excel, and then eventually would format it and send it back through an email. And once the email is sent, the structure of the Excel, which eventually got populated by the bot and sent in as an email, would look like this. Now, if that was the case, that was not an impossible task for a human being. What if the number of invoices which we are receiving is variegating, which is changing every time there is a new email? How many times do we receive that email? All that factor defines the reason why this should be RPA-able or should be left to a human being to solve it. So let's assume the situation is for the case where the numbers are changing all the time. The intermittence is not fixed. We do not know how many resources we would be requiring to perform this particular process. In that case, let's look at the same bot, how the same bot is solving a different situation where the number of invoices are not 2, but 8 of them. So let's go ahead and have a look at this. Now you can see that email is received with 8 invoices, and the bot will go ahead and perform the activities from here on. So you can see the bot will begin in a bit, and it is the same bot which actually solved the case for 2 invoices. Now in coming times, if I receive 80 invoices, I don't have to worry about it. The same bot will go ahead and do that. All we do in our longer run is just go ahead and see what is the TAT for each of the task it is performing. So let's have a look at it. And you can see it is filling up the data one by one. It's opening each of the invoices. It initially went ahead and extracted the invoices and put them in the folder. Now it's opening up each of the invoices, reading the data, feeding that into Excel. And that's how it will go and perform this activity 8 times, because there are 8 invoices in there. And once this is done, it will go ahead and format the Excel exactly the way we would want it to be. You could see that the number of times has been filled as 9, one being the header. So this is done. Now it's formatting the Excel, and it will send an email back. Now the email which is sent back will contain an Excel which would look like this, which is formatted and filled in the data. Please ignore the intermittence being this similar, because for the demo purposes, I just kept the same file 8 times, but these are 8 different invoices it could mean. So once it goes ahead and does this, it eventually would go ahead and, this is the Excel file which we have received within the email. Like this. So that was a clear demo on how Automation Anywhere goes and automates one of the processes. We just gave you an example of invoicing, extracting the invoices and attaching the details and extracting the details from the invoice and place them in Excel, attachments being PDF, Excel being Excel, and then eventually the email is immediately sent back to the concerned person.